Last Temptation of Christ. So yeah, I was just browsing YouTube home feed, and there was a clip there of Oprah Winfrey show discussing the movie and the backlash from the Christian community and wanting to boycott the movie because of the controversial scene where Jesus fantasizes about making love to Mary Magdalene, maybe having a family, because no one does that. Let's not go there yet. And so, historically speaking, I was deeply Catholic back then. Wanted to be a good boy and do what I was told, and then I loved the concept of the image of Jesus, the example of Jesus. You know, I'd go to church every Sunday with my parents because they were devout and sang the songs. I believe that it was cool for me. It was working. And so in 1988, I was maybe 16, 15, going on 16, and heard about the movie and the backlash, and we heard at church, and just in the media. Oh, how dare they, how controversial that Jesus might not actually have sex, but think about that maybe he wants to do that, maybe have a family, because that's not just the most profound instinct. I'm getting off track again. Because back then, the idea, it was an insult, a blasphemy. Why would they do that to Jesus? You know, someone I loved and cared about and honored. And I remember how distraught I was at 16. I remember being upstairs in the bathroom and thinking about it and just in tears. I was so upset. How could they do that? How disgusting and how terrible. What an awful thing. And carried that with me for several years, still being Catholic into my early 20s, but then also getting into Peter Gabriel's music in college, and came across the soundtrack. And actually, I remember when the soundtrack came out, I checked it out, put on the headphones at like Camelot Music, and wow, this is pretty cool. I like this. But my roommate Nick Advienko had the soundtrack, and I put it on in our dorm room and fell in love. And looking at the song titles, I started to maybe rethink that I sensed, a respect for this character Jesus. It's just the thinking about this character, not a disrespect or to say he was a terrible. No, it's out of love. You sense it. At least I did. And loving the music as I did, and respecting Peter Gabriel as a musician and a thinker, having read his statements on various issues and his activism, I wanted to maybe give the movie a second chance. And then some years later, early 2000 or late 1990s, they had the director's, not the director's cut, it was the commentary, right, where the director, Scorsese, and Willem Dafoe, or maybe some of the others, were commenting on the movie. It's the Independent Film Channel, I think it was, and I caught it not quite at the beginning, but right away I got into it, because Jesus is one of my heroes to this day. Real or not, I love him, and got way into it. And on that first watching, honestly, I loved it. I guess one of the overarching themes of this is life is going to take you from pillar to post. You go back and forth on these things. Is God real? Is religion? It's going to change. And just when you think you got things figured out, the universe, life is going to flip it back on you. Like for me, that astrology was nonsense. Well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's spot on. These things exist to keep things interesting. It's real. I mean, the placebo effect is real. So I'm really working on not being judgmental of people who are selling these things, and not being so dogmatic and black and white about things. I don't see bad people. Everyone's trying to help, I think, doing the best they can. But God is also a joker. He's a practical joker. And I'm not the first guy to say that. This goes back to ancient religions and philosophy. And if God gave you all the answers, Bible, blah, then that's nothing. That's not a game. That's not fun. It's a puzzle, and it's a joke. And then from that experience, wanted to go read the book by Nikos Kazantzakis. And that book It's maybe my favorite book of all time. It was so moving and profound and engaging. And as a Catholic person of like my mid-20s at that point, made Jesus real, right? A real someone I could follow as an example to live my life. Someone who doesn't know everything, who isn't absolutely certain that he's going to be saved when he dies. He's confused. What does God want from me? And he's fearful. I sense that God wants me to die. I love people, but I'm afraid. That's a human being. And I don't care what controversy comes of this. This is what life is. You got to wade into these areas. I love Jesus. I love Catholics, and I love that movie. And I love atheists for that matter too. I'm gonna go off the rails as I usually do. Look, whatever you think about life and religion, it's cool. You're safe. Universe loves you. You're not going to hell. Yeah, I'm a blasphemer, right? Just right there. Don't care. Got off track, so that's gonna be. Oh well, yeah, and the book. It's something I've read, and just cherish that book. Read it at least twice, and if nothing else, if you're not so open to reading the whole book, read the first chapter. That is poetry. It is awesome. And I am going to challenge you, if you're Christian and devout and you're afraid, or you've bought into not the propaganda, but you bought into the message. I mean, it's true to say, if you've never read it or given it a chance yourself, don't buy what the world is telling you. The world is selling you bullshit always, from the food that you're going to eat, what you're here for, put on a suit and tie. Another topic for another time. Be your own judge, and beyond that, put all your beliefs on the examination table. Yeah, your parents told you it's this. Your parents told you that Jesus was real, and that your parents told you that Muhammad was the prophet, and that's Islam is the. Your parents told you that it's only Judaism, whatever, or that black people are this. That's why, look, as an adult human being on planet Earth, all of us and all of you simply have to put all those beliefs that the world's been feeding you on the table and examine them with a critical eye. Why do I believe that's true? And here's how you can get rid of some of that, is to say, if it's in a book, or because my parents told me, that does not cut the mustard. I have to have personal experience or some justification, scientifically or philosophically, why that's absolutely not true. And as we go through life, a lot of us just buy into what our parents tell us, what society says, right, about gays, about trans, and we're not here to buy into that. We're here to make it better. That's part of the game of life too. What else can I say about this? Yeah, again, I mean, if you're Catholic and Christian, much love. But the thing that the power of that book and the movie was that, and I can relate to this as a kid growing up in the Catholic Church, the portrayal of Jesus from the sermons and I guess the Bible even, was that this guy knew he was the Son of God. He had all these powers and magical things, and there's no doubt. And so dying was nothing to him. Of course, why wouldn't you die to save the world if you know that you're God? That's not a human being that any of us can relate to. And if the challenge is to follow Jesus, who can do that without having all those same certainties? It can't be done. We're not that guy. We don't know that we're God. Here's the kicker: you are God, and you've forgotten that. You think God's not there, God's left you. God is way closer than you could imagine. Again, I'm a blasphemer right there. I don't care. The love sets you free. Yeah, I think if you read that book, you'll have really a profound appreciation for the human being that Jesus was. I think this is a fair statement. we talk about the Bible and Jesus on the cross and crying out, "Why have you forsaken me?" It's not a sacrifice unless you have doubt. The idea that Jesus would go to the cross and knowing he's saved, that's not something to even celebrate. You have to have doubt. But what overpowers your doubt is that you're disgusted. You love people, and it's just a sense that you have to die, and you're willing to take that chance. And then getting into science, that we evolved from stars, people. Fish, it's all true. We've all evolved, and that for you to be here right now in this physical reality around you, to be here, these atoms are only born inside the nuclear reaction inside of a star, and this fusion process, and for new life, new planets, new organisms for all the atoms and elements that make up the known universe. That star has to die to give life to everything. And I'll just say, challenge you, read all your mythology and your stories of the Messiah, that God comes down to sacrifice himself. There's a reason we tell stories. And this universe is so intelligent that I can say this, and maybe it's too much information. Maybe no one will ever get it. Or maybe you'll get it at that exact moment when you need to hear it. Truth conceals itself in error. Just a myth, just a legend, just a novel, just a story. And the panic can come when you say, holy smokes, this is surreal. Why am I living that story? Why does that song come into mind right now? Exactly when I need it. Because you're part of the universe. You are tied to your ancestors, and the great big now of everything. So as usual, I've kind of rambled on that subject, but again, my thing was I've gone from being I won't say brainwashed, but gullible, no, immature kid in high school, and just taking everything at carte blanche at face value and not questioning things so much, and being so upset, man. I honestly, I was in tears. I remember the feeling. Why would they do that to Jesus? Didn't get it. There has to be, that's what the artist is for, is to kind of rattle the cage a little bit. Not disrespectfully, but to challenge the paradigm to a point where it's like absolutely one of my top 3 books of all time. Maybe my favorite book of all time. Maybe my favorite movie of all time. So give things a chance. I'm going to tag on a little segue here. Jane Fonda. I love her. She's just an awesome human being. And a lot of you might, she's Tokyo Jane, whatever the hell her Tokyo Rose. I don't know. A lot of the military patriots and families are upset at her because of what she did going over to Vietnam and being framed as being sympathetic to our enemies. Give her a chance. She's an awesome human being. Read her book and hear her side of the story. In a nutshell, she went over there to try and bring peace, to try and save our own soldiers' lives. That the Nixon administration was planning on bombing like the dikes and levees to flood these fields and so forth, that would have killed 1 million Vietnamese civilians, people, like dropping an atomic bomb. That's why she went over there. So, man, I say I'm not angry at you for judging her without hearing her side of the story, but I need you to be open to the other side of the story. There's always 2 sides to it. People are not bad, and I vouch for Jane any day of the week. Read her book, the humanity, the empathy, her honesty, and her fearlessness, and sharing things. You just know it's coming from a genuine place of wanting to be a good human being. And she's awesome. So, 2 topics for you. Wish you well. Have a good night. Bye.